All right, ready for a deep dive into something that might surprise you?
Oh, I love a good surprise. What's up?
Well, today we're looking at how minimalism, not the empty room kind, but the mindset, can actually help boost your online business.
Huh, that's interesting. Minimalism and business, how do those even go together?
Yeah, it's not the most obvious connection, but trust me, there's some real gold here. We're basically going to cut through all that digital chaos with a minimalist mindset.
So, decluttering our way to success? I'm in. Where do we start?
We've got a cool mix of sources for this deep dive.
Hit me with it.
First up, we've got Neil Samudre, super successful online entrepreneur. He wrote this awesome article for HuffPost about his experience with minimalism.
Okay, real world application, always a good sign. What else?
Then we're going to get a bit more tactical.
Yeah.
There's this YouTube video that really gets into the nitty-gritty of digital decluttering. They actually pull some tips from a book called Decluttering Your Digital Life is Easy, actually.
Okay, love it. Practical advice is key. Anything else?
To round things out, we're going to tap into some wisdom from Cal Newport, specifically an excerpt from one of his blog posts where he talks about the power of digital minimalism for, a more focused life.
Okay, I can already see how this is going to tie together. So, we're going from real world experience to practical tips and then like zooming out to the big picture.
Exactly. Love it. Okay, so one thing that really hit me from Neil's story is how he talked about feeling overwhelmed online, just bombarded by everybody else's success stories.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah, you see all these perfect Instagram feeds and it's like, oh, what am I even doing?
Yeah, it's so easy to fall into that trap, that
Mm,
comparison thing.
exactly. So how does minimalism even begin to tackle that? Like, how does it help?
Well, think about it this way. Minimalism is all about being intentional about what you let into your mind.
Okay.
It's like when you're constantly being hit with all this information online, it's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah.
You just can't possibly take it all in.
Right, and that's where that feeling of overwhelm comes in.
Yeah, exactly. But minimalism, it's like it helps you filter out all the noise, and then you can zero in on what really truly matters to you.
Interesting.
You're basically curating your online experience. So you're consuming stuff that actually inspires you and motivates you, not stuff that makes you feel like you're not good enough.
Okay, so instead of like just scrolling through social media mindlessly, you're actually choosing what you see and why.
Exactly. That's the heart of it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's about being intentional,
Mm,
not just passive.
yeah.
And actually, that YouTube video we mentioned,
Oh, yeah.
it makes this connection to the idea of digital clutter.
Huh. Like messy desktop, overflowing inbox kind of clutter.
Yeah. And they make this really interesting point
What's that?
that all that visual chaos on our screens can actually like mirror that mental overwhelm we're feeling.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that. But it makes sense. Like, think about how you feel when your desk is covered in papers and your inbox is just exploding. It's like instantly stressful.
Right. And they're saying our digital spaces can be the same way.
Yeah.
Like a messy desktop can actually mess with our productivity.
Yeah, that's totally plausible. Our brains just aren't wired to handle that much visual information at once, you know?
Oh, okay. So too much visual stuff leads to.
Distraction, feeling tired from having to decide what to look at next, and just overall less ability to focus.
Oh, wow. So cleaning up our digital workspaces,
Yeah,
that could help us think more clearly and then, make better decisions for our businesses.
absolutely. It's all about bringing a sense of calm and order into your digital life.
Okay, I like that.
And the calmer you are, the more focused you can be on achieving those business goals, right?
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious though, what exactly counts as digital clutter? Because I know my downloads folder is a disaster zone.
Oh, yeah. Downloads folders are notorious black holes. But it's more than that. The video talks about things like a desktop crammed with files, inboxes where you can't find anything, and even having way too many tabs open in your browser. It's all about organizing your digital stuff and really only keeping what you truly need.
Okay, so it's like we need to Marie Kondo our digital lives.
Yeah.
Like, do these files spark joy?
Exactly. If not, time to say goodbye.
Now, for everyone listening, take a look at your own digital workspace. Is it a chaotic mess? Or are you already rocking that minimalist vibe? Think about it. We'll be right back after a quick break.
This brings us to something Neil talked about in his article. He said he used to get caught up in that whole shiny object syndrome online.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling. Chasing every new tool and platform like it's the golden ticket.
Exactly. And he realized he was wasting time and money on tools that weren't really helping him. He was just using them because he saw other successful people doing it.
So it's not just about having the most tools, but the right ones, huh?
That's it. And that's where minimalism comes in. It's all about figuring out which tools are essential for reaching your goals and then ditching the rest.
Okay, that sounds good in theory, but how do we actually do that? There are so many options out there. How do we know which are the keepers and which ones we can just get rid of?
Well, you got to be really honest with yourself. Ask yourself, do I really need this or do I just want it? It's easy to get caught up in the hype, but you got to cut through that and think, does this actually solve a problem I'm having or am I just making things more complicated?
So step one is to just look at everything we're using and see if it's actually making a difference.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to try new things. Or I guess not try things. You might find that a simpler approach works even better.
Less is more, right? Okay, and going back to that YouTube video for a sec, they talked about how a cluttered downloads folder can actually mess with our decision-making.
Oh, yeah.
It just reminded me of my desktop. I'm a total desktop clutter queen.
It happens, but when your mind's constantly bombarded with all that visual stuff, it gets tired. It can't focus.
So all that digital clutter can lead to us making bad decisions for our businesses.
Definitely possible. When you're overwhelmed, you're more likely to just react without thinking, or even just avoid making decisions altogether.
Yeah, I know when my desk is a mess, I just end up procrastinating like crazy.
Right. But when you bring some order to your digital world, it frees up space in your mind for clear thinking.
So simple things we can do to declutter our digital lives, I mean.
Well, first, tackle those inboxes. Unsubscribe from newsletters you don't read, set up filters to organize your emails, and block out specific times just for dealing with email.
Okay, good tips.
hmm
But what about my desktop? I always end up saving everything just in case.
That's a classic. What you need is a good filing system, and anything you don't need, gone. Cloud storage is your best friend here.
Like giving our digital lives a good spring cleaning. And actually, this whole decluttering thing, the YouTube video, connects it to something else important for online business finding your niche.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more.
Well, they have this idea of digital pigeonholes. Basically, organizing your online life the same way you'd organize your physical belongings.
And how does that tie into finding your niche?
Well, when you have clear categories for your digital info, it's easier to find what you're looking for.
Right.
You're not wasting time digging through a digital junk drawer.
Makes sense.
And it's the same for our businesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we're clear about what we offer, we attract the right people.
Right. When you know what you're all about, you create your own space in the online world, like having a shop that's well organized so the right customers can find you.
I get it. Much better than trying to be everything to everyone.
Definitely. Neil actually talked about that in his article. He started out trying to appeal to everyone with tons of different products and services.
Spread himself too thin.
Exactly. But then he embraced minimalism, focused on what he was really good at, and his business took off. He connected with a smaller audience, sure, but they were the right people. They really got what he was all about.
So he did less and got better results. That's cool.
It's all about focus. When you know your niche, it's easier to create the right content, attract the right people, and build a successful business.
So these digital pigeonholes, they're all about making things clear, both for ourselves and for our audience.
Exactly. It's about defining what you offer that's unique and then presenting it in a way that's clear, concise, and, exciting.
Now, for everyone listening, this is a good time to take a minute and think. If you had to sum up your online business in one sentence, what would it be? That'll help you figure out your niche and what your brand is all about.
And speaking of keeping things simple, Neil's story also shows how important it is to streamline the basic stuff, like how we actually run our businesses. He said he used to overcomplicate things, like setting these huge goals for himself before even getting started.
Oh, the everything has to be perfect trap. I totally get that.
Yeah.
But that can really stop you from doing anything, right?
Totally. And Neil realized he was holding himself back. He was so focused on making everything perfect, the product, the website, that he wasn't actually doing anything.
So perfectionism was his enemy.
Yep. And that's where minimalism can be so freeing. It's about getting rid of all the unnecessary stuff and going back to the core of what your business is about.
Which is,
solving a problem for your customers. That's really what it all comes down to.
wow, that's so simple. But it's easy to forget that online.
Definitely. It's easy to get lost in the noise, but when you remember that you're there to help people, everything else becomes clearer.
So how did Neil actually simplify things? What did he change?
Well, first, he let go of that need to be perfect. He realized it was better to get things out there, even if they weren't totally polished.
Done is better than perfect, huh?
You got it. He also simplified his pricing. He had all these complicated tiers, and it was confusing for his customers and hard for him to manage.
So he was actually making things harder for himself.
Exactly. So he streamlined everything, focused on a few key products that he knew would really help people.
And that allowed him to concentrate on what was important, taking care of his customers. Now, it's funny, the YouTube video also talks about simplifying things. They relate it to how we manage our email.
Like being more mindful about what we let into our inboxes.
Yep. They said that we often feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of messages. Like we have to respond to everything.
Oh, yeah, it can be a total time suck.
Right. So they suggest a minimalist approach to email. Only reply to the important stuff, unsubscribe from anything you don't need, and don't be afraid to use that delete button.
It's all about taking back control of your time and your inbox. So for everyone listening, think about this for a second. Are you making your business more complex than it needs to be? Are you setting crazy goals, adding unnecessary steps, or just not taking action because you're afraid of making a mistake? Because sometimes the key to growth is actually simplifying things.
I love that. And this brings us to something else that really resonated with me from Neil's story. He talked about shifting his focus from just growing his email list to really connecting with his audience.
Yeah. That's a common trap online. We get caught up in the numbers, followers, subscribers, likes that we forget about the actual people behind those numbers.
But real success comes from building relationships, right?
Absolutely. It's quality over quantity. When you build real connections, that leads to trust, loyalty, and ultimately, sales.
And where does minimalism fit into all of this?
It's about being thoughtful about your interactions. Instead of trying to reach everyone, focus on engaging with the people who are truly interested in what you have to offer.
So be selective with your audience, just
Yeah.
like we talked about being selective with the information we consume and the tools we use.
Exactly. It's about creating a space for genuine connection, whether that's in your online communities or in your one-on-one conversations.
That YouTube video actually made a really good analogy about this.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
They said unsubscribing from newsletters you don't read is like decluttering your house, getting rid of things you don't need anymore.
Creating a digital space that feels good so you can focus on the stuff that matters.
And that really brings us back to the core of minimalism, right? It's about choosing what brings you joy and fulfillment, both in your personal life and in your business.
And for online businesses, that means building a community, showing up authentically, and really making a difference.
So for everyone listening, think about this. Are you building real relationships with your audience? Are you having real conversations, giving them valuable stuff, and just being yourself?
Because those connections are what make a successful, sustainable online business. Now, rewrite only part 3 of 3 of the transcript for this episode for the TTS. Remember all the listed rules for writing the transcript. Only go to a new line when switching between speakers. Always use speaker tags. Only start by writing hashtag TTS The Deep Dive episode 2024-12-15 part 3 of 3. Do not signal the end of the part, if this is the last part 3, end by wrapping up the entire episode nicely. Always write out the script like the following. Use speaker tags and a new line between each utterance.
Speech.
Speech. Do not write anything other than the transcript of the dialogue. No sound effects, transitions, or nonverbal cues like chuckles and laughing, etc. There should be no breaks within this episode. The host speaker should always say the first utterance at the start of the show in part 1.
Wow, we've really covered a lot of ground today. From dealing with that feeling of overwhelm to picking the right tools and finding your niche to simplifying how we approach our businesses and really focusing on those connections.
And it's amazing how these simple ideas from minimalism can have such a big impact, right?
Yeah, totally. It all boils down to making conscious choices that actually support our goals.
Being intentional.
Exactly. And speaking of being intentional, Cal Newport talks about this interesting concept in his book, Digital Minimalism, a digital declutter.
Oh, like when you clean out your closet.
Yeah, exactly like that, but for your digital life. It's about taking a break from all the tech for a while.
So, unplugging for a bit.
Yep. Might sound a little extreme for people running online businesses, but think about the benefits. No more constant notifications, emails, social media.
I guess that would free up a lot of mental space, huh?
Right. Imagine how much more focused and creative you could be.
Yeah, I can see that. But how does that work when your business is all online?
Well, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Maybe you set aside specific times each day where you just completely disconnect.
Like no tech after 8 p.m. or something.
Exactly. Or maybe you just become more mindful about how you use tech, checking email at certain times, limiting your time on social media.
So it's about finding that balance, right? What works for you and your business.
Exactly. The point is to create space for deeper thinking and, really connecting with yourself and your ideas.
Reclaiming your time and attention so you can focus on what matters.
I've got to try this. I can see how disconnecting, even for a bit, could really lead to some breakthroughs.
It's about creating a healthier relationship with technology, where it works for you, not the other way around.
So for everyone listening, take a minute to think about your own relationship with technology. How much time do you spend online? How does it make you feel? And most importantly, how can you use these ideas of minimalism to create a more focused, more fulfilling online experience?
Because minimalism is really about designing a life and a business that reflect what's important to you.
Simplifying, focusing, prioritizing.
And ultimately, thriving.
Love that. So go out there, declutter your digital life, and watch your online business flourish. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.